My name is David Ruda, and I'm a writer. I write one-hour television, and I write plays. I'm also happen to be a lawyer too.
Okay, what have you written?
I've written well, recently my two plays were in L.A. for those last 8 months, and one was called Pomp and Circumstance. The other one was called Sperm Warfare, and they both did very well. The critics pick in L.A. Weekly and Backstage West. I'm writing right now. Right now I'm writing a TV pilot, which is set in a it's a legal TV pilot. I can't really say what the whole thing's about, but it's another legal show.
Well, have you seen Michael Clayton?
I absolutely saw Michael Clayton.
Not the corporate world?
That. Yes, it is the corporate world. That's what we're struggling against. Those dark, those. Absolutely. That's actually the corporate world, and it's the world of the studios and the networks, which we're fighting against. So that's obviously dramatized, but.
Well,
it's not really. I'm not really that kidding. I mean, it really is. There's a lot of dinosaurs living in that area, and they are not seeing the writing on the wall, which is we've been trying to push for, that the internet, and which you were talking to me about. The internet is the future. It's been the future with music distribution. It's going to happen with television, and if they don't do it, if they don't start coming to the table, the writers are going to do it themselves. And
how would that happen?
How would that happen? They start producing their own shows. I mean, it's already being done with Marshall Herskovitz. He's doing a thing called The Quarter Life. NBC ended up buying it, but he produced it, he filmed it, he wrote it, and he put it out there, and now it's being picked up by NBC. But it's
Are you saying that the workers in the industry could actually take over and run the industry?
Can you believe it? There used to be a day when that actually was a reality, and now it's been like how many years, how many decades since we've had that mentality.
Well, this is a dangerous thing, isn't it, to the people who own the industry?
It is a dangerous thing, but there's a lot more of us than them. So, and there's a lot more of us writers and a lot more viewers than them, and the viewers just want to see good shows on television that represent what they believe and what they want to see, the changes in the world that they want to see. So.
Well, there was a sign that was carried in Los Angeles, one of the banners, "Your intellectual property is in my head." Is that the truth?
Absolutely. I mean, that without the writers, you'll see it, and the people will start seeing it. They don't really realize, a lot of people are walking by here, and I don't think they really fully understand what this is about. They will know what it's about in about a month and a half when their shows go black. It's already happening with late night. It's going to happen with their favorite dramas and the sitcoms. And so when that starts happening, and when it's in their living room or not in their living room, they are going to say, what is this about? And they'll start seeing it. What it's about is the writers getting paid, and they're not getting paid a cent for distribution through streaming online. And that's the wave of the future. Your computer is gonna become your TV, and vice versa. So
you're talking about the future of the industry, and the workers who work in the industry, the writers, getting a percentage of the profits that are going to be made in the industry.
Yeah, and it will be the dominant distribution medium in the future. So it's not unreasonable for somebody wanting to get paid for what they do as their living. So that's all this is about. And they're not asking for that much. I mean, they're asking for, well, they were asking originally for 2.5%, but it's basically like 7 cents for every 7 cents out of every time it's shown. So it's not very much.
Well, what's happening in monopolization, corporate America, is there seems to be a growing disparity of wealth in the United States between the poor and the rich, and the monopolization of the media has also made things much more difficult for you. And where's this going?
Well, I think you see where it's going. People are, that's some support from the trolley car, cable car. I think what you see where this is going is that after a certain point, complacency stops, and when and this is where it's stopping. This has been the internet has been the most democratizing medium that we've had in the history, I think, of the world, and this is going to change it. And I think also there's going to be a change in the administration next year. I'm very hopeful, and I think people are just kind of. There's a lot of things on the plate here. I think a wave is about to break, and in multiple ways. Global warming, distribution of entertainment, you know, all the different ways. So
You say things are coming to a head?
things are coming to a head, and we're entering an extremely exciting time for individuals, and I think people want to be involved, and people want to make a difference in the world. They don't just want to not think, and so we're entering a time when we've been complacent enough, and it's going to change. So
Well, the writers of a lot of films, the actors, have been becoming more political. Michael
Yes,
Clayton is an
thank
example. Is that a result of what's going on in society?
well, there's also the war, and as it was with the Vietnam War, you saw a lot of movies in the mid 70s that had, you notice a lot of the endings started getting, there recently have been not necessarily so happy, and
Well, we have to protect democracy, don't we?
exactly. So it's, I don't know if that's democracy you're protecting, but it's been really refreshing to see these movies at least attempting, I don't know how well they've done at the box office, but they've been at least making the effort to make movies that matter. And that's kind of what happened in the 70s, and it's a nice trend. And I think it's going to keep on happening. The less the power and the creative control is in the hands of these few, and the more it's in the hands of the people out here picketing. So
What do you think the idea of labor, the unions having their own channel, a labor TV channel, a labor radio channel to get these issues out?
absolutely, I think it's a wonderful idea. I mean, I would absolutely support that, and I think the more people want, a lot of people don't know how they can get out there and make a difference, and and so they're looking for those mediums and those channels to do that. And and so yes, absolutely, I support what you guys are doing. It's a wonderful.
So there's a lot of frustration with people. They want to do something, but they don't see a way of doing it.
They don't know how, and I don't think, and they've been kind of lulled into complacency for so long, and I really think they're craving something that means something and that they can have a stake in, and that is not just about buying whatever
At Disney.
At Disney. I'm actually kind of getting lulled into complacency by this repeating soundtrack that they have bumped out of here. I'm just like, ugh. But but no, it feels good to be out here. I feel like I'm supporting something here that that is not just about writers. It's actually about expressing humanity and about because the writers do. That's what writers do. I mean.
So it sounds like these companies are tangling with something that could really be a problem for them. I mean, if the writers become very radicalized and start thinking long range about where they're going, and
yeah, I mean, I think writers always have been. They're not becoming radicalized. Writers by nature, I think, are somewhat radical. In order to write, you need to kind of be outside the. You got to kind of have your head looking over the toilet bowl. You can't be too far into it, you know. So, but I think. It's been, I think there has been a little bit of complacency even in writers because there was a system that they didn't feel they could change. And they saw what happened in 1988 with the last strike. And
what happened?
What happened was that they gave away the whole thing practically regarding regarding video and DVD.
So they bought the arguments of the owners?
They didn't realize how big video would be as part of the profits that the networks and the studios were going to make. And now they realize it, and now they see the internet as being the next thing that's going to replace DVD. And they're not going to let it. They're not, you know, what's the saying? They're like like. Once wrong, you know, fine, but if I do it twice, I'm an idiot. So I'm not gonna, that wasn't well eloquently said. I don't remember what the saying is, but it's something like that.
So the writers are not idiots. They've learned their lesson.
They've learned their lesson, and they've been burned once, and they're not gonna be burned again. So, and they're still willing to negotiate in good faith with the studios, but the studios are running this PR campaign. It's kind of like the Republican political machine. Actually, it's Republican and Democratic political machine. They've hired people there to spin what's going on down in LA to their advantage, and really the writers did not want to walk away from the table.
So they walked out, I understand.
They walked out in a very dramatic fashion, in a very shocking fashion. They came back for a few days to under the pretense of good faith negotiation, and then the writer, I mean, I wasn't there, but I'm just telling you what I understand of it. And the writers had every intention of engaging in negotiations, and apparently they had planned all along, the studios, to just make a dramatic walkout at the end of 3 days, and they had this entire press release ready. Obviously they had planned this like days in advance.
So they conspired to do something that was illegal?
No, it's not illegal for them to walk out. It's just not really very kosher. It's not very ethical on their behalf.
Isn't that unfair bargaining?
Unfair bargaining as a legal term, or as just unfair? I don't think it's fair as a human being to go in and say you're going to negotiate with somebody in good faith and then make a big dramatic walkout when the other party is in the midst of preparing a counteroffer, which is exactly what the writers were doing. They didn't even get that counteroffer in because they walked out.
Isn't that a sign of contempt for the workers that they're trying to get?
It's really hardball. They're trying to show them we're not going to give anything, but it doesn't exist without the writers. So they're living in the 20th century and we're living in the 21st century, and they're not gonna keep on being able to go. So it'll catch up with them. I'm not worried about that. It'll catch up. If they wait too long though, the writers are gonna start doing their own stuff. So that's what the whole thing about the internet is so wonderful.
So that's a real threat. I mean, if this thing lasts.
It's already happening now a little bit. I predict, in my own humble opinion, it's going to happen on a large scale, just like the music industry went down in terms of the traditional music industry. It's going to absolutely change.
So they're playing with fire.
They are. Well, they're not playing with anything right now because they walked away. But they're.
If the writers organize themselves to produce and distribute, where does that leave these big media companies?
They'll be gone. Yeah. They're not going to exist anymore. There always will be LA, there always will be Hollywood, but it's not going to exist in the same way if there isn't a deal struck.
Well, that's a dangerous thing.
For
the owners of these companies.
Absolutely. Not for you and me though. So it's going to be better for you and me.
You'll still have the product produced by your labor, but basically it'll be distributed and produced in a different way.
Exactly. It'll be produced in a way that gives more creative control to the people who create it.
Isn't that dangerous?
Dangerous. Very dangerous. Dangerous to actually be honest and actually have real points of view on television.
That sounds very radical.
It is. It is radical these days. It's amazing. What passes for radical these days is what was pretty standard a few decades ago.
I think you'd have a lot of viewers though. If you had real television.
I think a lot of people would think television is great because a lot of people, they say they say what's the writer's strike? What can I do? And I say well, support the writers. Otherwise television is not going to exist. So that wouldn't be so bad. So I'm thinking, well, maybe it wouldn't be so bad in a way because it'll exist in a different way. But anyway, we're fighting. What this is really about is the writers get more residuals and get paid for their work. That is going to help the writers continue to be a part of this process. Otherwise, it's going to become it'll be reality television. It's not going to be the quality it's going to lower the quality.
So you're fighting for the profession as well.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
This is Catherine Howell. I'm president of the San Francisco branch of Screen Actors Guild.
Oh, great. So is this the first picket that you've had in San Francisco concerning this issue?
As far as I know, yes.
And how many members are there in the Bay Area?
Of the Writers Guild? That I don't know because I'm not in the Writers Guild. I'm in the Screen Actors Guild. So we're here to support our fellow union.
So it's the same kind of issue?
We have a lot of the same issues coming up in our contract, which expires at the end of June. A lot of the internet issues, etc.
So they're trying to tell you the same thing, that they don't know what the money's going to be made and they can't give you a commitment to a percentage?
Well, we're not actually in negotiations yet, but I'm sure it will be very much the same issues.
So these companies say that they don't have a lot of money and they really can't make a commitment. What's really going on in the industry? Are they going broke?
Is the industry going broke? No, the industry is not going broke. The industry is making plenty good money. It's just a matter of them figuring out how to share it with the creative people who produce the product.
Are the actors crossing the picket lines?
We have a no strike. Don't put this part on because I'm stumbling.
Okay. You have in your contract you can't cross a picket line. A no strike clause in your contract.
I'm not sure of the details on that. I think the actors who were under contract in Los Angeles for certain television shows were required to commit to their contract. I'm not the authority.
That's one of the issues I understand that the writers are saying. They want to be able to abide by the picket lines of other workers in the industry. Do you think that's a good thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I think we're all artists in this and workers in this together, and with the same employers making a mega bucks off of our work.
Are there solidarity among a lot of actors with the writers?
Absolutely, yes. There's a lot of solidarity.
Why is that?
Because their issues are our issues. We face the same issues in the negotiations that they are facing now. We will be facing in June.
Who do you write for?
I write music for some of these movies, so it's sort of the trickle-down effect. I'm a local songwriter. So
What's your name?
My name's Tom Luce.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is Heather here.
Okay, Heather,
We're coming out.
Okay, good. So this affects not just writers, but musicians.
Yeah, it does trickle down, yeah. You know, and the better each business does, the better the subsequent businesses do. So I look at myself as sort of maybe on a different level, but still being affected by it all.
Well, the companies say that they don't know really how much they're going to make on the internet and use of these kind of new technologies, and they really can't commit to something with you.
Well, you know, they don't even have to know how much they're going to make as long as they commit to sharing whatever it is that's made, you know? So hopefully that's what we gain out of this. I think not knowing is not a good answer.
So what do you think about the use of new technology to get labor story out? I know there have been a lot of YouTube. Have you been watching these YouTube programs? What do you think about that?
I think it's a great idea. I think anytime, I mean, new technology always shapes the industry. It shapes the artists. It shapes the creativity. And as long as people can share in it, then it'll continue to grow. But if people start feel like they're getting stiffed, then it creates animosity and it kind of stunts the creativity of everyone's growth.
You feel the same way? What's your name?
Heather. I do. I feel the same way, but I'm mostly just here helping support. So.
Well, these companies, these big companies, multinationals, they seem to have the attitude that they don't have to negotiate with you. They've got businesses all over the world, and you're just a kind of a subset, one of these.
Well, you know, they can say that, but I just don't believe that to be true. You know, we need each other. And we're not saying we don't need them, and you know, they may say that for now, but I think ultimately they'll see that they need writers just like they need their accountants, you know. So hopefully we can find a solution, we can work together, and something great comes out of this for everybody.
How long are you prepared to be out?
Forever. Till I run out of money. Till I have to start asking people if they can spare change.
There are a lot of people who are in desperate shape in this country.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, I think we're going to be able to settle it, but I think we're committed to fighting for what we believe is fair, and I believe that we'll find a solution. But right now, we are where we are.
Are you going to write any songs about your experience?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I'll bring my guitar out tomorrow.
I think that the majority of people in the United States, I think popular support is overwhelmingly on our side. People that work for a living, people who have kids to feed, you know, they have mortgages and stuff. You know, it's just not fair. It's not right that people shouldn't benefit from their work, you know. And so.
What's your name?
My name is James D'Alessandro. I'm the author and screenwriter of 1906.
Okay, well, what does this specifically have to do with other working people? What are your issues? How are they connected to the general situation of working people and the public in this country?
Well, we think that people should benefit from their work. You know, people in labor unions, they get retirement benefits, they get vacation benefits. You know, they should get something besides just their wages that helps them through the rest of their lives, you know.
Well, the companies say that they really don't know the value of stuff that's going on the internet. So how can they negotiate with you to give you something which it's a new industry and that kind of thing?
Well, in 1985, we made a deal for 0.3% of DVD because they used the same argument then, that DVD sales and home video, nobody knew what they were going to do. Well, we got a pretty good idea right now of what's going to happen. And if you don't know what's going to do, just give us a fair percentage. We're not asking for the lion's share. We're not asking for a huge share. We're asking for a minuscule share. You know, just something that we have the highest unemployment.
What is your unemployment?
Well, at any one time, 70–80% of writers are between jobs. Feature film writers, they get a big job, and then they wait for their next one, a lot of them. Television writers, you know, they get on a season or two, and then they're out looking for work again. Those residuals on their and foreign and DVD residuals on writers' work is what keeps them alive. You know, is what allows them to feed their families and keep their homes while they're waiting for other jobs. You know, that's why we have unemployment benefits in this country and just this whole vast sort of network of things. We think that we should collect from our work rather than the government and you know, the systems like that, you know.
Well, why are these companies, they seem to be big companies, they seem to be very profitable companies, why aren't they willing to really give you a decent share of the profits they're making?
Well, I personally think that there's this movement in this country in the last 20 years, 25 years, to take from organized labor and to look at the layoffs that are going on in this country. You have more and more corporate executives making these huge, unbelievably tens and hundreds of millions of dollars.
Aren't they working hard for that?
Well, we're working as hard as they are, at least, you know, and you know, and I just think that everybody in this country, police officers, carpenters, steel workers, everybody, you know, they have to watch their backsides. I mean, this is a very, very broad issue that I think affects everybody in this country.
Well, you're saying that there's a disparity of wealth in this country and that writers, like other working people, are basically getting the short end of the stick. So you're saying this is a general problem of you're not really getting what you're producing and you're just basically asking for a greater percentage?
Well, look, there have been more jobs outsourced in this country in the last 7 or 8 years than any time in American history. Anytime you call for services on anything that you purchase, you don't get an American answering the telephone. Our manufacturing jobs, your manufacturing base in this country has been diminished greatly. I mean, whatever happened to America first? Whatever happened to, you know, we're all in this together, and people who work for a living and produce products and produce services, you know, should have the opportunity to survive and feed their families, you know. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing more American than that, than for a democratic society to practice that democracy economically.
And what's the average income of a writer?
There is no average income of a writer. Writers do very well when they're working, but those gaps in between the time when they're working, you know, there are writers sometimes go for years without working. So, you know, you get a nice paycheck when you sell something, and then you have to divide that over the years and months that you don't work or you wait for your projects to get made, you know, and you know, it's always a juggling and balancing act for the majority of Writers Guild members and SAG members and even a lot of WGA members, you know.
So the residuals then is a way of tiding you over when you're not working?
The residuals are the lifeline of the WGA. Without residuals, without that secondary income from ancillaries, from DVD and foreign sales and reruns, the majority of writers would not survive. The majority of writers, the people in television who are doing very well for themselves, the majority of their income comes from residuals, from foreign sales, from working on staff on those shows, as opposed to the freelance writers who get 1 episode of a show or 2 episodes of the show. It's being part of the process, part of the system that allows us to stay alive.
So how long do you think this is going to last?
It looks really ugly right now. It appears to me that the studios have already lost more money than it would have cost them to just give us what we had asked for in the first place.
So it's not a matter really of the money, it's a question of control?
Well, Patrick Goldstein in the Los Angeles Times wrote a brilliant article last week. He said that the studios and the networks and things resent having to pay residuals, that they don't believe we should be entitled to any secondary income after they pay us for a television episode or a feature film. There are no other writers in any medium. I'm a novelist. I get royalties on all my books. People who write American theater, who write theater pieces, musicians who are songwriters, everybody in this country who's a writer benefits from the profits from their work. Only screenwriters and television writers are the lowest paid of all those other writers, you know, and I just think that's wrong, you know.
Do you have a lot of solidarity in your union?
Oh man, the solidarity in this union is unbelievable. I have never seen this union. I've been a guild member since 1983. I've never seen this kind of devotion, this kind of enthusiasm, this kind of commitment. You know, we don't want this to be acrimonious. We don't, dislike the people we work with. Those guys on the other side, a lot of them are our friends. But so this doesn't have to be this way. This can be fair, and they can respect us, and we can all make a living, and we can all go back to work. It's real simple.
Isn't this part of the class struggle?
Well, is this part of the class struggle? Yes, it is, but it shouldn't be. You know, this is America. Everybody's an American. You know, we don't.
Do you think that the owners of these companies really care whether you make a decent wage or not?
Well, I don't think some of them care. You know, I think that some of them are towing the company line. You know, I don't believe in generalizing. I'm not going to make everybody on the other side a bad guy.
But the monopolization of the media and the multinationals that own these companies, this is just, for some of them, a side business.
Yes, exactly. That's the problem here. Is these companies are owned by multinational corporations that have they have huge, deep pockets. And this is part, I think, of an overall thing of trying to squeeze the little guy out of the process. And I think Americans have to wake up to that fact that the little guy cannot get squeezed out. You know, little guy's got to survive. The little man, the little woman, those people who toil for a living, carpenters, police officers, truck drivers, cab drivers, everybody's got to stand up for their rights and say, you know, we're part of the system. We deserve to stay alive and make a living.
So it's not the big stars. So you're talking about the regular working people in this country.
The big stars are on our side. The big stars, the big movie stars in Hollywood, they're on our side. A huge majority of them are on our side. They recognize what the writers do. They recognize that good scripts are the foundation. That's why television, you see so much wonderful television these days, because it's a writer's medium. And the showrunners, the head writers on their shows, the solidarity among the show writers, who are also producers, is overwhelming. And so this is a strong guild. I think this is the strongest the Writers Guild has ever been, you know, and Patrick Verone and the people who run the Writers Guild now are just fabulous.
Well, there was a sign up at one of the rallies in Los Angeles that said, "Your intellectual property is in my head." What does that mean?
Well, it always starts with a great story now, doesn't it? You go to see a movie and you walk out disappointed. It's because you weren't crazy about the story. You know, the story is everything. And that's why, again, there's so much great television now on HBO and FX, and some of the networks are really, you know, doing different programming and things, and the quality, and that's because television is a writer's medium. The writers is respected more in television than anywhere else. They run television, you know.
So the product is really coming from the minds of the writers.
Well, that's where it starts, you know. Dave Peoples, who wrote Unforgiven, is here. You know, I mean, that's one of the great screenplays of all time. And, you know, it started with Dave Peoples. And you've got people, you know, Eric Jenderson, who wrote Band of Brothers, is here. You know, he, you know, all those terrific things started from a writer sitting down and creating something out of nothing. You can't remove the writer from the process. How could you possibly make films or television without writers? You'd wind up with with reality shows, you know. And I mean, you know, God bless the people who love that stuff, but that's not the end all be all.